Welcome everyone to the Pantheon. I'm your host Ray, and today it's the third Monday of the month, and I get to review a Razzie-nominated film. In today's review, Dolittle, 2020 classic starring Robert Downey Jr. This was the film he chose to do after Endgame. It's a departure from the Iron Man Tony Stark character. It is a film that really sets it apart. And again, like he could do whatever he had the golden ticket to do whatever he wanted. He's the executive producer. No, he's a producer of this film. One of the producers for this film, and he was given carte blanche. The budget for this was $175 million. The movie made a profit. It made $77 million domestically, $245 million worldwide. So it may not be like Avatar great, but it turned a profit. Critics bashed this film relentlessly. It did not do too well, but the general audiences, kids like this. I made a reference that, like with Ava DuVernay's A Wrinkle in Time, that's a film that critics truly did hate, but kids liked it. And I remember seeing that movie in theaters, and when you saw it in theaters, the director Ava DuVernay comes out and she says, in notes uncertain terms, she asks the adults in the audience to come approach this with a tabula rasa mentality and to accept this from the point of view of a child's eyes. And if you can accept that, then you would really enjoy this movie. And then you have some big name actors, especially John Cena, who's now done Peacemaker, and he's making a name for himself. You have Kumar Najami. You have a bunch of actors who are well-known actors. So if you know who the voices are, it kind of, I don't know if it helps or it gives it away or takes you out of the film. But I'm guessing that they were sold the idea that this is about, and this doesn't escape me, this is about acceptance. People who are LGBTQ, those who are introverted, those who are socially awkward, or you were from a background where you're supposed to be a certain way, but inside you're not that, which was what the theme of The Ape was done. You have Tom Holland. You have a bunch of really big name actors in this movie, and I think when they were sold that bill of goods in terms of, okay, this is the point of these characters, then they're on board. I think that's why you have such a great cast of people doing something bold and exciting. This film, when you watch it, you don't see that at first glance. I mean, the idea never escaped me. I understood it's about acceptance. It's about being true to yourself. It's about knowing your truth and being okay with it. And and it's okay to be different and being comfortable in your own skin. And it's about social acceptance. And it's about the message in this movie is really, really positive and it's really good. And it's done in a way where it's supposed to be lighthearted, or characters are supposed to be bigger than they are, like with a polar bear, with a gorilla, with the birds. It's colorful, it's bombastic in terms of the visuals, and kids actually in the theaters really gravitated to that. But adults, when you're looking at it, you're not looking at it for that message. You're looking for humor. You're looking for connective tissues that make sense, sort of, and you're looking for a hero in Dolittle that connects with the audience. Now, I grew up with the Rex Harrison film, the 1967 film. I mean, I haven't seen that movie in many, many years. It's a classic. My niece, who I took to see the Eddie Murphy's version movie, I think it was in 2001. That came out in 2001 or 2006. I forget when it came out. Probably 2006 or 2001. No, 6 was the trilogy. So yeah, 2001. She liked that movie because it's Eddie Murphy, it's Norm Macdonald doing the voices. It's a very fun cast of colorful characters and squirrels and dogs and people connected to all of that stuff. With this movie, it's different because the character, Downey, I mean, first of all, he has a Welsh accent. It fades in and out. It's not really continuous. It kind of loses itself. Also, when he talks to the animals, he starts off. When you first see him talk to the animals, he talks in the sounds of animal noises. It's very disturbingly off. But if you look at a movie called 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, where he plays the 13th Warrior, I think he's a Spaniard. and he joins these Vikings or Icelandic warriors to battle this evil. He focuses on the lips of these warriors because he's Spanish or Latin American, and he doesn't speak Gaelic or whatever the language is. So by focusing on their mouth and their I guess you would call it vernaculars, if you will, he's able to tune in to their language and actually speak their language. So what you're seeing is that movie, whereas like Dolittle is actually focusing on the sounds and the rhythms and the beats of these animals when they speak, and then by doing so, the light clicks in and he's actually speaking their language. We have a new apprentice who, in time, again, focuses in on what the lips of Dolittle is saying. He's focusing on the patterns of when the animals are talking, and he tunes in and then he hears the language of these animals. And ironically enough, Antonio Banderas is in this movie too. So that kind of, for those who've seen the 13th Warrior, will kind of maybe pick up on that connection. With Downey, he has a Welsh accent, and he's very like Cockney, and he's very talking to you very soothing like, because being a doctor who talks to these animals who have, doubts and insecurities, he tries to soothe and comfort them, and he talks in that way. But every so often he explodes, and he says something that might be slightly, like rage-induced. It's kind of like the squirrel. The squirrel gets shot in the beginning, and then he's like homicidal towards the apprentice, like for half this film, and then the other half of the film he kind of forgets it. That whole story arc kind of drops, and he's like on board. Which, I don't know, that's onto its own. The movie is up and down. There's a thing I call Zulu time, basically the point of no return. A lot of the films I'll be reviewing in the future now, I gave it, I guess it's an arbitrary number, but the number I've chosen is 1 hour, 7 minutes. At the 1 hour and 7 minute mark, which is the point of no return, I stop the tape or the movie or the streaming, whatever it is, and I say to myself, okay, at this marker, in that 60-second window, give or take, wherever I stop it, am I liking what I'm seeing? Am I liking this movie? Am I learning something? Is there something that is revealed to me? Am I liking this film so far? Do I hate this movie so far? Am I intrigued? So it doesn't matter how this movie ends. It could have a really bad ending, but is this movie something that I'm on board for? Well, at this 1 hour and 7 minute, at the 1 hour and 7 minute mark, we get the pinnacle, I guess the moment of truth, why he's haunted. Actually, we never figure out, like, okay, so I should say this. Dolittle, he lost his wife. We find out in the beginning he lost his wife at sea, and it's shown to you like in an animation little summary, kind of like the movie Up, which was amazing cartoon. I cried, I laughed, and then within 3 minutes I cried, and then it's one of those amazing opening sequences in animation history or cinematic history. It's probably why I was nominated for an Oscar nomination. Anyways, so this movie does the same thing. They give you a highlighted, like in 5 minutes, what happened to his wife, how she was lost at sea, and basically he's haunted by that. He became a reclusive because of that. And then he finally reveals at the 1 hour and 7 minute mark. He actually reveals to the audience and to the animals, like, he still sees the ghost of his wife, and he's haunted by his loss of that, the loss of not having her around, the feel that love, and being lost without her. And then Rosoli, who's the father-in-law, who's like, that's Antonio Banderas' character, who's like a evil pirate baron of this island. He's the one who also takes this tiger onto Dolittle. He's had a rift with Dolittle too, but he too sees the ghost of his daughter, and so this is a coming together, because once he's revealed, he feels the loss. They have a commonality of loss and the grief, and that's something that these men have not had a hard time to open up and discuss it. So it talks about that, and also in that moment too, the animals too, in this journey at the 1 hour and 7 minute mark, has overcome the things that make them whole, like the ape or the gorilla. He's like the cowardly lion in Wizard of Oz. He lacks courage and self-confidence. he stands up and saves Dolittle against the tiger. You have the polar bear. You have different characters that Dolittle says at that moment. Each and every one of you has overcome their misfortune or misgivings at this point. So this is where all the story arcs that you're seeing of all the imperfections of these characters, the journey has made them stronger, both as a whole and as individuals. And this is one of the really cool pivotal scenes of that movie. So at the 1 hour and 7 minute mark, that is where you have the meat of the point of all this. It comes together at that particular moment. Now, whether or not this movie is good or not, I mean, that's debatable. But the message of this movie is a positive thing. And for children, the visuals, the bombastic look of it, it's something that children, I'm sure that from what I heard, that kids in the theaters really gravitated to this movie. Now, critics really hated this movie. I think it got like 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, but like a 53% in audience scores, because it doesn't, for adults, it doesn't connect with the audience very well. And from a point of view of an adult watching this, when these animals talk, it's just a bombardment of just noise and just the arguing and just in separate, like, there's no break from this. And it seems a bit too much. And as a result, yes, the audience, in general, does not like this movie. But for children, on a very tabula rasa sense, it's connection because it's colorful, it's well animated. The logic in it may not be cohesive necessarily, but there's a positive message to it. There's some fun to it. It's a journey. It's basically Jason and the Argonauts, where they're looking for the Golden Fleece. The journey is what sells it. It's the voyage to find this amber, or you could call this ambrosia, to save the Queen Victoria from this. And then your villain, you have the dastardly villain, what's it? Mudfly, what's his name? Dr. Mudfly, a doctor himself who is competing against Dolittle, and he's the evil, like Michael Sheen is the twirly looking, like, villain, so to speak. And he does this really, really well playing that villain, like Rocky and Bullwinkle kind of villain. And kids understand that characterization, and it's fun. And I think that's why it succeeded in the box office. I mean, the budget is $175 million. Like, what? But it made $245 million worldwide. So it did good. There was an audience. And I think in time, like many films you go see nowadays, or that, like toys, like Howard the Duck. I keep going to that film. It was horrid. No one liked it. It was like the butt of all jokes in Hollywood. But give it 30 years, the film did okay, and as such, the film succeeded down the road. I think Dolittle, it will have the kids who watch this now will be the adults who take their kids to see this movie again, to watch it at home. Like with VHS, a lot of the movies didn't do too well, but when they went to VHS or DVD in sales, the movies made a turnaround. It made a comeback. This is what happened with like Princess Bride. Like this has happened with like a bunch of like Back to the Future. Well, Back to the Future was a classic regardless, but like there was films that came out that when it came to the home viewing, streaming in this case, it'll find its legs, more so than it did in the box office. Though in the box office, it did pretty good. Just that with critics and adults, it just went over their heads. So in that sense, it is a okay movie. For you and I, it's not an okay movie. This movie is bat crazy. And he explodes. There's a scene where he just explodes and he sounds disgruntled at some points. And his Welsh accent just fades in and out. And it's like, what's going on? You got a squirrel who's homicidal. And then he drops it halfway through the film for no reason at all. So in terms of red flags that pop up in your head, yes, this movie has so many things wrong with it that yes, you have to say to yourself, why am I watching this? This is nuts. But for an audience for who it was meant to go for, which is children, it did okay. And I think when these kids grow up, it will find an enduring audience down the road, and it probably will do really well in the future, which is the brilliance of what Robert Downey Jr. saw in this movie and what was pitched to these actors. Now, if you talk to John Cena or Tom Holland or Cannell, they'll say, yeah, this movie didn't do well and Trump distanced himself from it. But like in time, this movie might turn heads and be something of a classic.